Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Crossroads Podcast Radio and also podcast. We got a radio and we got a podcast. Good morning. And if you want to leave any questions, answers, or anything, then please do so. We'd be delighted to hear from you. Sarah, hello. How are
Good.
you?
I'm good, thanks, Steve. How are you?
I am over the moon. I am. I woke up this morning with a stride in my step, and I'm really really good. So um, tell everybody
Sounds
about
like a good
yourself.
morning.
Sorry,
Sounds like you had a good morning.
I have. Tell everybody about yourself.
So I'm Sarah Ross. I'm a burnout recovery speaker, coach, and help people who are stressed, overwhelmed, burning out, not to get to that final burnout stage by giving them tools, tips to actually put themselves back in their life as a priority with a smile on their face. Um, I'm also Auntie Sarah to three, one nephew, two nieces, and currently living in Oxford. And that's about me in a nutshell.
Right? Okay. Good. And when you when you first started off doing this, what made you start it off? Was it like a career, or was it past experiences that you've been through in the past that made you do it?
So, to be perfectly honest, I burnt out in the corporate world to the point where I actually chose a date on which I was going to end my life. And various things happened, and I obviously took a different path. But I never planned to tell anybody about it. I was still quite ashamed that I'd got that bad. And I was in a training course, and we were asked a question, and it was quite an innocuous question, like, what did you learn this week? And whatever in my brain said, now is the safe place to tell your story. And I did. The whole story came out, everything that had been going on, what I'd been planning to do. And at the end of that session, two girls that had gone before me actually got back up on stage, admitted to problems in their own life, and went on to get the help that they needed. And I think it was in that moment that you realize that your story is incredibly powerful. And maybe there is somebody that needs to hear that they're not the only person going through it. And that was the change for me. It took probably another 2 years from that point until I was happy to bundle it all up into a client program and speaking gigs and everything. But yeah, there was that moment of, you know what? What if I could just help one other person make a better choice for their life?
That's it. That's why we started last year doing this, and I think we did about 600 shows so far. You know what I mean? It's amazing, and we've helped a lot of people. We put people into rehab. We put people towards counselling, and it's really really good. And when you kind of got a client who you work with, um, what's the process? How do you do it? Do you sit them down and say, okay, say Beth, say right, hi Beth, we sit them down and talk to them, ask them what's wrong. Um, what do you do?
So I have a process called Reset, Recharge, and Thrive. And the premise is similar to, and we don't have this in the UK, but you do get it in the US. If you go in for an operation or a procedure in the US and you're having some sort of sedative or anesthetic, they do actually get you to sign a disclaimer that says you won't enter into any legal agreements for at least I think it's 24 or 48 hours after the procedure, because you're not really in a fit state to make any decisions. And I use that in my process, is that if someone comes to me and they're super stressed, overwhelmed with life, work, or, they've burnt out, there is no point us having the discussions about, well, what does your perfect life look like? What does a perfect day look like? Because they're not in a place to answer that question. So what we concentrate on to begin with is actually getting them to a place where they are, for part of every day, happy. And we take them through that process. And it does take a while because, burnout and stress don't happen overnight. Your body doesn't, disintegrate overnight. And it takes a while to build it back up. Now, once we've got people to the stage where they're actually feeling better, then we can explore what led them to burnout in the first place and give them the tools that it won't happen again, or that they are better equipped to deal with it in the future. And only after we've done those two stages, so they are feeling better and they are now equipped with stress management tools, time management, do we then start looking at what does the perfect life look like? What does, or in my case, what is your reason to breathe? That's what my company's called. What is that reason that is so strong for you that you would get up every morning, like you described this morning, Steve, big smile on your face, world is wonderful. How about if every day was like that? And so we find that reason to breathe for them and then build a plan around that answer. Now, it's not the same for everybody. There are some people who'll be watching this who go, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't want my own business. And that's okay. What this is about is finding what is right for you. So you may be in exactly the right job for you, just at the wrong company. Or you might be at the right company in the wrong job. Or you might be time to make a complete change, train for something different that you used to do but got sidetracked from because of family, promotions, career, and actually go back to it. Or you might be one of those people that says, I have an idea and I want to set up my own business. And we put that together as the final steps of the program.
Right. And the trouble is, it's kind of like, it's really kind of the support and kind of like, in my case, it's like, I love helping people, and, if I get like someone comes up to me and say, Steve, thank you very much, then, I've done my job, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. And for some people, the only way to help them feel happy right at the beginning is for them to leave their job or to take a leave of absence. It certainly was for me. I had tried healing, I had tried different things whilst still in my job, and fortunately was offered a redundancy package. And that was the only way that I could come out the other side. In those cases, then you're kind of having to do everything a little bit overlapped. We still want them to be in a better place before they make any life choices. But if they have already taken a step like that, then it's working with it and using those processes that we talked about. When we're looking at stress management tips, looking at, well, what sort of job fits you? What values do you have? And which jobs will allow you to support those as well?
Yeah, yeah. And when you're kind of like doing your kind of like, when you're speaking to people, you know, do you get a buzz out of it talking to people?
I'm one of those people that very fortunately likes being on the stage and talking to people. I like feeling the energy in the room, seeing when people are having those aha moments, those shifts. And for some, it can be quite emotional. And that, the responsibility of the speaker is to then make sure they don't sit for the rest of the talk in a really miserable, depressed place, but, to keep an eye on them and make sure that, it was for a moment or a couple of moments, but that you actually then bring them out again without necessarily speaking to them directly. Now, afterwards, I usually have a booth or a table if I'm speaking at events. Those conversations are usually some of the most enlightening, and you can, in a very short space of time, help people, or give them the support that they need, because actually all they needed was to say to somebody that they were struggling.
Yeah, yeah. And when you kind of like talk on stage, do you give out? Do you do like a presentation, or is it just kind of like an ordinary talk on stage?
So I use very few slides. Um, there's visuals that are, to be honest, there to help me give the presentation, not really for the audience. Gives the audience somewhere to look if they're maybe finding the topic a bit more difficult. But the talks that I give are full of stories and exercises, even in a large group, you know, 400, 500 people, we'll still do something, well, we do, in-person events pre-COVID, we would still have done exercises in small groups or with the person next to you. Virtually, obviously, it's a little bit more difficult, but there are ways of bringing people into small groups to talk and get to know each other. And I think that's the fun bit is how can you make a topic which is
Yeah,
quite down, um, lift it for people and say, you know what, it's okay to say you're stressed. It's okay not to be okay. And here's some of the ways that you can help yourself or help others. And a big part of what I talk about is, you know, depressed people don't really go to networking events, but their friends do. And so making sure that the advice or anything that I use is actually geared to what if you've noticed this in someone you are friends with or someone that you love? What if they have started isolating, or what if they have, they've stopped going to the gym, they're just eating junk food? It's probably a sign that something's going on, and just helping people see what the red flags are for themselves, but also in others.
right. Okay. So that was interesting. So you were saying this that you just said um about people eating junk food. I think you might think that something's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what like it's meant with their mental health or
Yeah, so if you have somebody in, let's say, in your household who always went for a run every single morning before work, they always watched what they eat, they never touched, Coke, soda, those sort of things. And you notice over a period of time, this isn't the, oh, one night a week, they just binge on whatever they want from the cupboard. This is over a period of time, they're not going to the gym anymore, or their diet is getting worse. There may be something going on with them which is related to their mental health, which is around stress. And one of the reasons for that is because of, when the body goes into that stress reaction, it goes into fight or flight. And therefore, it grabs what's handy, which will be fast food, soda, rather than necessarily standing and cooking for maybe half an hour to create something that's more nutritious.
right? Because at the moment we live in a world where obesity is rife.
Yes.
And I'm an obesity campaigner myself. I've done TV, radio, you name it, I've done it. But the trouble is, do you think that that when people are going through like who have weight problems and everything, do you think there is a no way out scenario for them?
In my own personal experience, I put on a lot of weight when I was burning out because I was basically, my life was sugar and carbs. I don't even think protein came through the front door in the shopping basket. It was, my diet was atrocious, but it was comfort. It was what I needed at the time, and it was handy. Now, I was fortunate enough to go to a detox in Thailand and actually sat with a nutritionist, and he said to me, "Well, what's your standard day?" And I was like, "Well, breakfast is a sandwich, and lunch is a sandwich, and my dinner will be," anyway, probably a sandwich. And it was, I was very much in this routine. But when I started eating better, and it wasn't that I went from bad to good overnight, it was a gradual process. Then I started to feel better about myself, and then I wanted to go and do more. I wanted to move more. I wanted to go and see people. And the impact of all of those is very much, I said we focus on getting people happy. Well, happy in the sense of the body can heal itself, and it has, triggers to do that: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And when we can trigger those, the body won't be producing cortisol or adrenaline. And it's the cortisol and adrenaline that actually doesn't help in the situations of obesity and weight gain. Because when our body is stressed, the body doesn't digest food properly. And therefore, if you are stressed, it doesn't really matter what you put into your body. Your body is literally taking the energy out of it because it thinks you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, and it gets rid of the rest. And so where we can trigger those other, the endorphins, the oxytocin, that allows the body to just heal better and digest better. And so there is a correlation between, the happier you are in your life and the doing things that make you happy, the rest of the processes in the body will actually start to fall into place, whether that's what you're eating, whether it's your fertility. All of these things are impacted by stress.
Right. Okay. And how about so for some people who is who's obese and stuff like that, sometimes it could be medical too, can it? It can
Yeah.
be kind of like so and sometimes it's difficult, but the trouble is it all comes down to the point of stigma. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, mental health has an awful stigma. Nobody wants to admit that they're not doing all right, that they're struggling. And there's even studies that show that 65% of absences from work are actually due to mental health conditions, concerns, but they're not reported as that. People would
Right.
rather put down that they have the flu or even that they've had diarrhea before they would put down that they were struggling with stress, because they think it's a bad thing. And the same, with any condition where people feel less, then it's difficult to get them to open up about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah. So anyway, so if people want to come to you and get some help and want to join it, some of your classes or and what you do, how can they contact you?
So best way to contact me is through Facebook. I have a Facebook page called Your Reason to Breathe. Um, there's also, we have a website and we have a quiz on there that's actually called Are You Burning Out? Which is 15 yes no questions that will just give people an indicator of where they are, and also just shows what the red flags might be. So it's not always people are, eating junk food, not going to the gym. It could be you're waking up in the morning absolutely exhausted, even after 8 hours sleep. It could be that you're more emotional than normal, or that you think your to-do list will just never ever get shorter. So I would encourage people to take a look at that quiz. It's on the website, yourreasontobreathe.com/quiz. Fill it in, and then there are some contact details on there if people need some extra help.
Okay. And what I like to do, I like to get you back and talk to you more about what I haven't covered,
Yeah,
um, because I think we need to do that. And also next year we're doing a conference in Birmingham. So and I'd love for you to come and talk
I'd love to.
there because I think you will definitely help a lot of people. In the meantime, I'll get my wife to contact you with a new date and a time, and then we can talk further again because there's lots more that I need to talk to you about.
That sounds good. Thank you,
Is that all
Steve.
right?
That sounds great.
Thank you for your time today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bless you. Bye bye.
Bye.